From Salzburg, we continue our journey through Central Europe by train, traveling to the capital of Austria, Vienna. We're taking the train from Salzburg. It's a medium-sized station, so it's easy to find the platform, so you can get right on your car. We're riding first class, 3 hours from Salzburg to Vienna. Oh, and it's very comfortable. You sit back, relax, read the newspaper, enjoy the scenery out the windows, and there's farmlands and little villages, and soon enough, before you know it, you have arrived in Vienna. We get the bags off the train by helping each other out. The guys pull the bags down the steps. Everybody else waits on the platform. Find your bag, get yourself organized, and walk along the platform, heading into the main station where we get our taxis to bring us to our hotel. Vienna is a historic and yet modern city. It's a living museum of monuments and memories connected to a long, rich history, but also a sophisticated place with glamorous shops and cutting-edge design. We're staying at the deluxe 5-star Hotel Bristol, and now we're going to show you some of the highlights of Vienna on foot, which is the best way to get around. Starting out our walking tour from the Hotel Bristol. Big walk this morning through the alleys, the back alleys of Vienna. Well, it really does help to begin your day, especially when it's going to be a big day like this and a walking tour in the heart of Vienna. Begin it with a nice breakfast, and certainly the Hotel Bristol puts on a spread. They've got eggs and breads, and they've got wonderful atmosphere here. It's like a deluxe dining room. And it's only breakfast. What a way to start your day. Okay, the group is assembling in the lobby, and we'll be starting out in just a moment. We'll keep going about 3 blocks on this road. Have a quick look down this alley, Blutgasse. It connects with Kartnerstrasse, and it's largely a pedestrian street. A few cars coming through. Now we're walking down Viborgstrasse, heading to the Franciscan church. We've pretty much left the big streets now, folks. And the rest of the walk is largely in the smaller lanes, cobblestone lanes. Now we're in Franziskanerplatz. That's the Franciscan church right here. And normally this Platz is a very peaceful, traditional spot. Now we're entering deeper into the heart of the old city. And you'll find these kind of lanes with cobblestones. This is Gründergasse. And it's got a series of antique shops, art galleries, and restaurants along its length, just a couple blocks long. We're not going to walk down this one, though. We'll go another block or so down a similar alley. If you wanted later on your own in the afternoon to come wandering here, this is the kind of street you might want to take a walk up and down, all the way in that direction. It's about 5 more blocks of little lanes. We'll pick out the nicest ones right now. Behind me is a typical palace of the aristocracy. See all of the statues in front of it. Now, it's not open to the public, but it's got banners out front, and it's identified, and the beautiful Atlas-type statues holding up the facade. Maybe someday they'll turn more of these into public palaces. Some of these might be more government offices, but they're all historic landmarks and very well preserved. Blutgasse. The street that we're on now, it's called Blutgasse, which means blood street. And they're not sure why, but they think back in medieval times there was a battle with the Templars. The Knights Templars supposedly fought a battle here, and there was a lot of blood in the street. So it's called Blood Street, Blutgasse. It leads us down to Mozart House, which is a private museum that's highly recommended. Take a look in here. Just pop your head in there. It's a public courtyard. Go ahead and have a look. You've got architect's office and international press office. This is quite typical of the courtyards that you'll find behind many of these houses. They look like they just, are solid stone all the way from block to block, but of course they're not. They have internal courtyards. Now here's a hidden treasure in Vienna. It looks like just an ordinary storefront, but there's an archway, and if you walk through here, you're going to find an intriguing series of alleyways. They run through the middle of the block, and of course they're for pedestrians only. So they make a very charming detour, and you'd never know it if you didn't dive into what looked like a storefront archway. Along the way, there's this great restaurant called Figelmuller. It's a legend in Vienna, famous for their Wiener Schnitzel that covers the entire plate. They have great foods of all sorts in Figelmuller. Nice, quiet spot to have an authentic meal. And then as you come out from the alley, there's a favorite sign here, Figelmuller sign. That marks the threshold to the gateway to that fine restaurant, popular spot. Look at the sign up there. Oh yeah, that's worth a shot. And now folks, come on over here and turn around. Look at the sign. To Figelmuller restaurant, it says. Zum Figelmuller. You'll see this sign in many of the guidebooks. It makes a great close-up too, so zoom in. Now we're heading down Bakerstrasse. We've emerged from that Figelmuller alleyway and passed through Gutenberg Square. A couple blocks down Bakerstrasse will take us to the Jesuit church. And along Bakerstrasse, you got more of these little alleys going off. This is Gasse. Nothing special, but just a nice little pedestrian alley. So what do we got here? This courtyard. Typical though, it goes back to the 1500s and 1600s. This whole part of town, this is the old city of Vienna, about 10 blocks by 10 blocks. And typical of the 1500s and the 1600s. Schöne Lanterngasse. Street of the Beautiful Lantern. And it's that lantern down there on the left. That is the beautiful lantern of this street's name. Street of the Beautiful Lantern. And it lights up at night. Electric light. At night, this street is pretty busy. There's a couple of restaurants. We're just going to walk down to that lantern area, and then we're going to leave the street. You have a little view down this winding lane, and particularly looking back this way. Isn't this nice? Great little spot. Now we'll go through this arch. Now we're taking a little shortcut through this arch into an alley and through a courtyard, which is kind of a parking lot, but it saves us a lot of steps. And it's time for a coffee break. You've got to sit down and rest, use the facilities, get some refreshments during a walk. About every hour or so, we like to sit down and take a little break, and this is the perfect spot to do it. Austrian-style cafe. Notice they serve a glass of water with your coffee, or maybe you'd like some hot chocolate instead. Pick up a croissant while you're at it, rest up, and then move along. Across the street is the Greek Orthodox Church. This is a very old church in the Orthodox style, a reminder of the mix of ethnic groups who have lived here. The Turks, the Greeks, the Arabs. This is a very old part of town. Passing Griechen Beisel. This is a great old restaurant. This restaurant is 500 years old. It's incredible. They say that Beethoven dined here, among other notables. We're going to go down Meat Street, Fleischgasse, Fleischmarkt, and across to the Jewish neighborhood. We'll see the Jewish synagogue, and then we'll end up at the Jewish square, Judenplatz, and then we're done. Through this little alley, coming out through Fleischmarkt, the old meat market. We're going into this alley that'll bring us to the Jewish synagogue and to Rupert's Church, the oldest church in Vienna. Totally turned around. There's a name for it here. We're now entering the Bermuda Triangle. Yes, a place where tourists are never seen again. They disappear. They go to a bar and have too many beers and they never get out. Around the corner is the Jewish synagogue. So it's a Jewish neighborhood, and there's the Jewish street is just ahead, Judengasse. And a couple of blocks ahead is the Jewish square, the Judenplatz. The Jewish synagogue is just in front of you now, halfway up this street on the left side. And it's the only synagogue left in Vienna. Commemorative sign for the Jewish synagogue. The oldest church in Vienna, right in front of you, St. Rupert's. And it dates back to the year 800. So what style of architecture is this? See those little rounded arches? Small windows. It's Romanesque. Yeah, we carry on down this. This square is called the Hoher Markt. H-O-H-E-R. Hoher Markt. And it was one of the principal squares of the old town. Leaving the Hoher Markt behind us, we're heading for the Jewish square, Judenplatz. And then take a left. From Hoher Markt, we cross the street and turn up Schillerstrasse. These are wonderful quiet alleys as well. Get away from the cars, pedestrian only here. Judenplatz straight ahead. We're now entering the Jewish square right in front of you. This is Judenplatz. This is one of the great squares of town. We've got another one of these great buildings with the Atlas holding them up. Fischer von Erlach design. The atlases holding up the lintels. And all around you find buildings with detail and sculptures above the columns and the doorways. Little sculptures above the windows. And over here, this cubic building is a memorial to the Holocaust. Several pedestrian alleys radiate out from the Judenplatz. We'll take the one out the far corner. The Amhof Square is just right here. They've been doing a lot of excavation, scaffolding work, renovations and cleanings. And now it's all done. Beautiful job. Standing at the Graben, the main pedestrian shopping plaza of Vienna. It looks like a broad street, a pedestrian street, but it's actually a square. Graben means dike. It was an original fortification from the ancient Roman days when they had a ditch and a dike here to protect their fortification. Now, of course, it's all level as a grand pedestrian plaza with some of the finest shops in town. And there's Meinl food store just there. If you want to go in and browse around, it's worthwhile. In the other direction is Kohlmarkt, which means coal market. In the old days, it was used as such. And now there's more fine shops. Daimels is halfway down on the right side if you're ready for a pastry break. This is a good time for it. Karen, are you gonna sit down and have some? Okay. Walking into Daimel is like entering pastry heaven. Daimel is certainly one of the most famous pastry shops in the world. And it's not just for tourists. There are locals who come here and shop or sit down and eat their pastry with some coffee or tea to wash it down. So this is a treat for everybody. It must be said that in Austria, in fact Germany as well, you will find pastry shops galore, and they each take extreme pride in creating these artistic visions. The Kunsthistorisches Museum has one of the finest art collections in the world, with particular strength in paintings of the old masters. Entering the front door, you're immediately knocked out by the extremely elaborate lobby and staircase leading up to the main galleries. Stand for a minute at the foot of the stairs to take in the spectacle of multicolored marble walls leading up to a very high ceiling, covered with a fresco mural depicting some of the great figures of art history. At the stairway midpoint, you will come across a huge marble statue by Canova. Just a taste of things to come. Entering this building and walking through the galleries is such a visceral experience that it's difficult to capture it in words, so we can only offer you a small hint of what is there. And pictures, as usual, just do not give it justice. You have to be there in person. You'll see important works by Caravaggio, Rembrandt, Mantegna, the largest Velázquez collection outside of Spain, Vermeer's greatest masterpiece, The Allegory of Painting, Van Eyck, Titian, Raphael, Giorgione, El Greco, Dürer, Cranach, Rubens, Bernini, Cellini, Bellini, the list goes on. And there are 12 Bruegels, which is a high point of the museum, and much, much more. If you need a little break from so much stimulation, have a seat in the gorgeous cafe in the central rotunda, surrounded by a vast multicolored marble floor, walls, columns, and ceiling. It's the most amazing domed cafe you've ever seen. The building is just 100 years old, but the complex design seems more ancient, with paintings hung as they were in the original collections. Noted art connoisseur Thomas Hoving, who was the former director of New York's great Metropolitan Museum, has called this the world's best collection of Western paintings.